Welcome to another episode of the Bank Free Blueprint Podcast. Today I have with me Margaret Vieira. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
You bet. And so, Margaret, you've been a broker and owner of two real estate franchises, two real estate companies, Exit Realty, one in Morgan Hill, one in San Jose. You've been in real estate for close to 30 years now. Sounds like you must have started really young. You've been working as a broker. I see that in 1991, you finished working for IBM. So you have quite the background in real estate since you started back in, and I'm assuming that was about 1991 when you started.
In the real estate industry itself, yeah. Basically, I went into lending first, and then about 94 is when I really got active in a full-time real estate agent.
Okay,
but
great. And you've done residential and commercial properties. You do rentals, land development, new construction, renovation. So you've really done the whole gamut.
I have, and a lot of that experience was from my own experience as an investor prior to becoming a realtor.
Yeah, great. So with the experience that you've had, the things that you've done, and I've known you now for just over 5 years, I believe. We met at a workshop here in San Jose, and first of all, I have to say that from early on, I've always known you as a person that just comes across really genuine, really sincere, and concerned about the customer, the client, the people that you're working with. And I know in your, I don't know if you call it your mission statement or whatever, but I know you talk about integrity and trustworthiness and those types of things. So I can attest to the fact that is something that you work really hard at and have done an excellent job at here in the Bay Area. So,
well, thank you, Tom. I've had such bad experiences when I was, not in the industry, when I was an investor, and I've had terrible experiences with real estate brokers. And so I vowed every time I work with a client, I'm looking at it as if I'm the investor and I put myself in their shoes. To would I do this, as an investor? And so I really try to not make the mistakes that I had run into my past.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so obviously that's worked out well for you. And with the two brokerage firms, you have a lot of agents working with you. And I can imagine that's a full-time job, just making sure everything is running smoothly and that everybody follows the same high standards that you do. When you got started, what was it that made you decide to go in as a broker and then eventually getting the brokerage firms, the franchises themselves? Was there something specific that you drove you to that?
Yes. I mean, actually, I started going for broker classes basically on a little dare.
Okay. Was that from your husband, if I remember?
No, actually, no. I mean, he had wanted me to go in the real estate or at least get licensed years and years before. And I just said, that just doesn't, I don't want to run around. I'm not a salesperson. I can't do that. So I don't want to do that. But no, it actually was another agent friend. And I never wanted to own a brokerage because my husband had been in business since almost forever. And I knew how hard it was. And I had done a short stint in my own business after leaving IBM. And I just didn't want to pay the lights and the electricity and have to do that. So I thought, no, I'm just going to stick with, I'll be an agent. I just let somebody else pay the lights. But on a whim or a little dare, a friend of mine says, I'm taking these brokerage classes. What I didn't understand was he was going to get a discount if I took the classes too. So that's how that started. And then once I was licensed, it was, what am I going to do with this? And So if I open a brokerage, why? Well, mostly to control, mostly the whole controlling the agents, controlling, I mean, I had a team that I would, give leads to, and I just felt like I didn't have control over that. So as a broker, I managed an office, a sales office. But I always thought I didn't get paid enough for what I had to deal with. So,
anyway.
Anyway.
And I can imagine that you had the ability to have more control over what really happened within the brokerage firm, within the offices, if you were the one that owned the brokerage. And so, again, back to being able to lead the way you with the standards that you work with. And so I can imagine that that's part of it.
Absolutely.
No, when first of all, I think the listeners on this show typically fall into two categories. One would be either the active investor, somebody who is looking either to get started as an active investor, looking to buy their first property or some of their first properties, or expand on the active side of the equation of real estate investing. The other type of listener is going to be the passive investor, somebody who might have self-directed IRAs money, somebody who is looking to be more passive, maybe even to the point of being a partner with an active investor. So we have the two sides of the equation. Mm-hmm. You have a background in private money lending, as well as your brokering for real estate. Is there anything in particular? Let's start with the active investor. When they come to you, is there anything in particular that you would advise them to really be prepared when they're coming to you? Maybe they're looking for that first property. Maybe they're looking to build their team, and they know that you've got experts that might be able to fill those gaps. What would you give for advice for somebody like that?
Well, the advice will definitely build the team and build it with, professionals that aren't just salespeople, aren't just, they really understand your goals and have experience in that. So, you have to have the financial team as far as your money. You've got to have your accounting, advisor. I've made those mistakes early on, because taxation will kill you and take away your profits. So you want to be sure, and your real estate professional, your contractors, are you doing the job yourself? I mean, I ask a lot of questions. I want to know the whole person, their goals, and then what are their expertise, and are they going to be managing it full time? Nobody hardly starts at full time. But because you have to follow up with everybody. You can't assume everybody is doing their job. Make sure you're getting people that are working on the project that are experienced. Don't get a handyman to do everything and, do a lousy paint job. And so I'm really looking at what's their expertise level, their participation level, where their money is coming from. I'm kind of an advisor because I've done it too. So sure. I can see where maybe their pitfalls might be. So
when they've come from let's say they've come from a weekend workshop and they're excited to get that first property.
Yes.
At that point, is there anything specific other than really just being prepared? And hopefully at whatever the workshops that they go to, they help prepare them for what to look for. Yeah. But just something to really what ideally would they come to you with at that point?
Well, definitely money in hand or access to it quickly, because anything we absolutely fine, we've got to compete with, especially in the Bay Area, with many buyers. And so they have to be prepared to overbid. They have to have their money, like I said, that's the biggest part right now. And then where's the rest of the money coming from for the actual work? If they're doing a flip or if they're buy and hold. I mean, there's two different animals that they're going to be looking at. So it makes a difference what they're doing.
So whether they're going to do a quick short-term flip, or maybe even a renovation and then a long-term hold.
Correct.
Got it. Now, with your experience with the private money, and let's switch over to the passive investor side of the equation. When someone comes to you and they think that they want to buy a piece of property, do you ever have them come to realize that maybe they don't need to own the property, that maybe they can become a money partner for someone else who is actually doing all the work? How do you work with them?
Yeah, and I have a group of investors I do work with. If they just, because of the workload, what it takes to actually do a project, like I said, you've got to follow up, you've got to be there, you've got to be on top of people. So if they don't have that desire or the time for that, then definitely they should just be passive, and they'll make a good return. So some investors, that's not good enough because they really want the benefit of the appreciation of the property and the profit. So there are different ways, we can structure that. I definitely, I know your company does too, and it works well. So it depends on the investor and their tolerance level of workload and et cetera, and headache.
So working with a profit sharing component, so that the passive investor can also maybe receive some of the potential profits on a project, especially if it's a shorter term renovation and resale.
Right. I've also worked with some that took some points up front, and then, the rest profit was for the borrower. Yeah.
Great. And now with this, you do some syndication, right?
Correct.
You've done
Correct.
some. Can you just explain how that works? If someone comes to you and they say, let's just say we've got $100,000 in our self-directed IRA, we would like to get into real estate. We don't really have the time to be active in real estate. We want to join you on one of your projects, or what would that look like? What would your process be for walking them through that?
What would my process be? Well, I really need to look at their tolerance level. There's a couple of things. Personalities.
I guess where I'm going with this is as far as the structuring with the syndication, and syndication just meaning bringing a group of investors together to do a single project or whatever that investment may be. Is there a process that you go through? And maybe I just interrupted you on that, but I know that personalities and risk level, tolerance is important.
Yeah, absolutely. But normally I would create a trust, and then I have two companies that I work, and we have an LLC and a corporation that I service those notes and those investors. So they would, whatever property we were going to get into a project, we create a trust, and then they are part of that. And it's all included in that. And then my corporation manages and services that note.
Okay.
For them.
Do you work with both lending trusts and just real estate investment trusts? So the actual investing and lending?
Yes, both.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And so now that they've decided that they want to invest, you'll bring together a group of multiple investors that then can do that project as a syndication.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
So next is finding a project that works, for them, and put that together. So, yeah.
Okay. And you have done real estate performing notes and non-performing notes.
Yes.
Could you describe what that has been like for you?
Okay. The non-performing notes were nightmares. I love the performing notes. So I don't know what else can I say. The
Yeah.
non-performing notes turned out to cost more money than they were worth, as far as because non-performing means
They stop paying.
they stop paying, and all these things happen.
hmm
So
So even though they can be bought at a 80-90% discount, that's
oh no, we bought them at 15 and 20% discount in bulk.
yeah, yeah. I'm so that you're buying them at so discounted by 80 or 90%, meaning that you only paid it the 10 to 20% of
Correct.
the face value, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
But
and that sounds like a great price, but if they're non-performing, now sometimes they can be turned around, and but I think what you're alluding to is the amount of time and effort it takes to really get to that point of either getting it back to performing, negotiating it back to performing, or you end up going through a foreclosure process, which that can be really time consuming. And so,
well, and each state is different in their in their foreclosure laws. And you know, I mean, we've had people pull guns at our servicers, and so. And then you need attorneys, and then you know, then somebody files bankruptcy. Someone else, you turn out that the house was a meth house. So just those were a nightmare.
Yeah.
So the performing notes I love. Those are good, and always try to work with people if they get a little behind. But you know.
And when you did performing notes, did you buy them by way of bulk, or did you just find individual notes that were available? How did you do that?
Found individual notes, and then some were borrowers came to me and needed money, needed to finance something, so put together investors to actually invest in those notes. So I've done quite a bit of that, just matching people up with borrowers. Yeah.
And you can do the same thing there with the syndication. If the notes are larger, if people want to invest a little bit less, you can join a syndication, which is really just like a very mini fund almost, where it's a group of people together.
I really like the one-on-one, which is a specific note versus a pool, which I did. But the one-on-one is better. It's easier to manage and track for the investor. So, but multiple people on a note. Investors, yes, I've done that. We've sold portions to the other investors that wanted to invest more. So it works well that way, and they like that. I have an online system where I just pay them on direct to their bank account. So it works well.
Okay. Now let's go back to the active investor, and this is a question I wanted to ask you is, if you're to give advice to somebody starting out as a fix and flip or buy and renovate and resale, fix and flip always sounds a little bit whatever. Some people don't care for that term, but fix and flip or purchase and renovate and resale. Now, you and I were talking right before we got on this call, and talking about how some investors, active investors, will bring you a listing or bring you a property that's ready to be resold. Maybe you can share a little bit about that, but then also, if you were to give advice to that active investor starting out, what are a couple of bits of advice you might give?
You mean as far as their quality of their work, or?
Well, yeah, let's start with the quality of work, because that's what I was referring to on what we had talked about. But then even after that, let's start with quality of work. And then I'm a brand new investor. I've never done this before. I'm excited. I want to get out and do something. What advice would you give me? So we'll just start with the first one.
Yeah. So one, be sure that you've got enough funds ready for the renovation. You can't go half the way. You've got to have everything, and you need to pad it. And I know that you're going to cover that on workshops, so they will get that. But I want to be sure that that's in place, because some people get so overexcited to get going that they they don't get it all together. So I want to make sure that's all together. Once you're in the project, I want to be sure that they have the time to manage it and be there. And then hire good people, good professionals to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
And do a complete job. You don't have to do high-end items. It doesn't. It's real interesting. Having been I've done fix and flip myself. People don't necessarily appreciate high quality, so don't pay for high quality. Unless it's a very high-end home. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, they just look at how cute it is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they want to know that it's up to date. So don't spend a lot of money on that part, but do quality work in that a complete job. It just bothers me to go into homes and find, okay, the counters are great, they're granite, they've got their stainless steel appliances, but then I go to the hallway and the bedroom doors are the old doors, and they still have old hinges on them that are all yucky. I think really, doors just aren't that expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and hardware can be, but you don't have to buy high-end hardware. So do the complete job and do a good paint job. Don't, because people think paint is easy. No, a professional painter is,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not that expensive. So
Yeah, so really paying
do a
attention.
complete job. Yeah.
Paying attention to the final details, the punch list, so to
Yeah.
speak, of the project, really getting it completed down to detail. And I agree that had been one of my frustrations when I was brokering back in Minnesota as well, is that it's so close to done really nicely, but then just those last few things that just could have made all the difference in getting that the best price on it, getting it the property moved quickly. So
Right. Well, and the problem is when when a person sees that, you kind of go, okay, so they kind of cut corners here. Where else did they cut corners?
exactly.
The other thing that's very frustrating is that they renew everything, but the air conditioner is 40 years old, or the heater. I mean, those are pretty basics. I think go in there and make sure those are in good shape. Get the basics, the really high, because those are the high dollar items. Make sure that they're in good shape before you start doing everything else. Because other things can be done, but those. I mean, that's health-wise and comfort-wise, and it's expensive for a buyer to turn around and have to do something with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you got started, or let's put it this way, if you had known, let's see if I can word this properly.
Okay.
What is one thing that you really wish you had known when you got started out that nobody told you that you want other people to know right now?
Well, there's a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
One, not to be too greedy.
Mm-hmm.
Holding out for the highest possible profit isn't always a good thing, because the market changes in an instant. Never gives us really, I mean, it kind of gives us some little hints, but most people don't pay attention to them and don't notice them. And so what was a good price when you started the project, by the time you finish it, there could be a little blip in the market. And so you have to be, cognizant of that. And take a good profit and get out. Don't hang on and don't hold for that ultimate, dollar. There is no silver bullet. We all want one, but there isn't. And so you're not going to get rich on the one deal. You're going to make some cash flow, and you're going to go on to the next one to build on it. So that's kind of where my advice is. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point of not holding out for the last dollar, the cost of money on a project can just be just horrendous.
It's enormous. It's enormous.
And so just a few days more on the market can eat up profit so quickly. And so
Absolutely.
definitely something to look for.
And be sure that when you've got your money, there's some ability to extend it if you need it, or that and get that all lined up early when you go into the project. The biggest problem is anything near like vacation areas or coastside. The depending on the month, the market can just slip for you. So real estate is a today situation. The comps are not, comps aren't from yesterday or last month. It's what's going on today. And so you've got to take what you can and move on to the next project.
Mm-hmm. Good. Now, if somebody would like to reach out to you with questions that they have about real estate, or they want to find out what's in your market, either you're in the Morgan Hill and San Jose, California areas, how might they reach out to you?
They could call me directly or email me or go onto my website. So my email is my name, Margaret Vieira @gmail.com.
And we'll put that in the show notes for anybody listening. So.
And my website, teamvieira.com. It can also ask me for, I have a monthly online magazine they can obtain and put them on our list to receive that. Or call me direct.
Okay.
So.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. Well, I think that should about wrap it up here. I appreciate you taking the time, Margaret, and really good catching up with you again.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, and look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.